person to come up front, that's himself. Oh, Ms. Salaam, please come forward. Sharon.
Community Board 10 honored Ms. Salaam last week at our event. Fantastic.
Kevin got his already.
Yeah, and Kevin got his proclamation last week.
So, Pam, you should come with us. Okay. Yeah. Bob wants to take it. So let me just, this is a proclamation to Yusef Salaam, and we have a rather lengthy tribute in this regard, almost as tall as he is. So we're gonna start at the bottom because there's many whereases, and that's because he's done so much towards that end. And he earned it, and so we don't want to overwhelm you with the wordiness of these proclamations. And so I'm going to say that whereas on April 19th, 1989, a Central Park jogger, later identified as Trisha Mealy, was brutally assaulted, raped, and beaten almost to death. The crime stunned the city and the nation. Antoine McCrae, Kevin Richardson, Korey Wise, Raymond Santana, Yusef Salaam, all teenage young men were arrested, interrogated, and coerced into giving confessions. Now, if this group of 5 was coerced, can you imagine how many others unknown, unrepresented, and or compensated for the injustice are out there still today to be reckoned with? And so there's 15 more paragraphs of this type that I'm going to take my time to read so that you all get a chance to enjoy it. Well, Bob Jackson has his fist in my face. I'm not blind. So Keith Lilly is here. Keith, come forward. So anyway, I'm going to complete this because, as I said, it is respectfully very wordy, but not necessarily for an audience. And so, as per my wife's direction, insistence, whereas today the entire story, from their arrest to their exoneration, remains worthy of the exhumation and investigation on the part of those who were too quick to judge and convict. And by the way, this Central Park 5 was not the first, and I'm sorry to say they have not been the last. But at least we were able to bring some sense of justice and understanding to their particular plight. And we hope that we can never have to go through this again, but if we do, we want to be sure that we're going to do as much the next time, if not better, than the last time. And so whereas today, the entire story from the arrest to the exoneration remains worthy of the exhumation and investigation on the part of those who were too quick to judge and convict. The exonerated five, no longer the Central Park 5, the exonerated 5 are to be commended for their educating people across the nation, particularly vulnerable teenagers like they had been, about wrongful convictions and other injustices. Now therefore be it known that Councilmember Bill Perkins of the 9th District in Harlem gratefully honors on behalf of this community, in fact even far beyond this community, because it resonated not just in Harlem, not just in New York City, but as this sister just said, throughout the world. It's a world-renowned case. It's a world-renowned case. In multiple languages, in multiple cultures, this case has become known and has been supported, has been cheered for the sake of how much it meant in terms of the idea of justice. You know, sometimes we use that word justice like, you know, rhetoric, but it really means something. And I think this case, this young man as an example, exemplifies that, and we look forward to never having to have another Central Park 4, 3, 2, 1, or anything like that ever again. That's the significance of this, and we all have to be united around making sure that that type of justice or injustice is never played out again, not only in the Harlems of this city or the Harlems of this country, but throughout this world. Throughout this world. Amen.
Amen.
Wow. Yeah. I can hold it and talk. Yeah, this is definitely an honor. Back in the place where it all began.
Talk about it.
Harlem World, yes indeed. Let me tell you, I think one of the most profound points in this whole story, the story that I started to describe recently as a love story between God and his people. It's a story that shows you that God is alive and well and will produce miracles in modern times.
That's right.
Yes.
And the reason why I know that is because my man Korey, he wasn't even supposed to be there.
Come on now. That's right.
He wasn't a suspect. Korey became the magic that
That's right, brother.
us.
Come on now.
Say
That's
that.
right. That's right.
And let me tell you, like real talk,
Come on now.
this would not have even happened
That's right, brother. That's right.
had Korey not
Come on now.
been magically placed in
Very
this
good.
case.
Very
That's
good.
what-
Yusef.
And it's the saddest story in the world. But we survived it. There's a part in part 4. I hope I'm not giving it away. But there's a part. Listen, I gotta say this because this is a part of why it's important, right? There's a part in part 4 where 2 things happened. One was Korey could have folded under the
That's
pressure
right, brother. That's right.
and decided to say, you know what, this is too much. I got to get out of here. I'm willing to say anything and everything to get out of here. Let me just get out of here. But when it came to get Korey for that fateful parole day, and Korey was working out of his cell,
Right, brother.
she said, brother man, you said, I'm not going. The officer was shocked. He said, what? You're not going to your parole hearing? He said, I'm not going if they don't want to hear my truth.
That's right, brother. Come on now.
I don't want
That's
to
right.
waste my
That's
time.
right. That's right.
Yes.
Now, peep how deep this goes. Korey was told to transfer to another facility, and he, like just like me, we knew that there was a jail right up the block from Schaumburg. Now, not a jail that we could get into, but it was a jail right up there. We had hoped that we could get as close back to home as possible to our family, right? And Korey said, man, I done used up all my batteries. I can't get no worse than this. And instead of them sending him closer to home, they sent him further from home.
Think about that, brother.
But
Think
look at
about
God.
that. Come on now.
God has not left us, and God restores everything back to
That's
its
right,
original
brother.
Yes.
Talk about it.
and gives us more.
Yes.
Because let me tell you, Korey could have died. And in many ways, Korey always talks about life after death. This is really a life after death. This is a second lease on life. And for us to be here and to be able to give back and to pour back into the community and to plant seeds, like I always tell people, man, we gotta think about ourselves in the context of past, present, future.
That's right, brother. That's right. That's right.
And as we plant those seeds into our own future, we truly reap what we sow. And Korey had gave it all.
Come on now.
Came back a different, I mean, Korey told me many times. You said, yo, Korey died in prison.
Very good. Very good.
You know what I'm saying? This is the Korey who's fighting for the other Korey,
That's
just
right.
like
That's right,
Korey,
brother. Very
who
good.
had nobody to
Very
fight
good.
for.
Very good. Very
You know what I'm
good.
saying? So I'm honored, and I thank you, Uncle Bill. You know, but I'm humbled. I'm extremely humbled and honored because of this man here being by my side, because of Korey King Wise. You know what I'm saying? It's forever salute. Listen, when you talking about an ace in the hole, it don't get no better than
That's
that.
right. That's right.
I'm telling you, listen, I had a bad hand. And I pulled out the ace in the hole. And my whole life was restored back to greatness. That's Korey right there, y'all. That's Korey right there.
Hold on. Just on behalf of Raymond Santana, who couldn't be here, he's actually in the city coming in tonight. You'll be getting his proclamation and also Antron McCrae, and they live close by Atlanta. So thank you, brother.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Korey,
Wise man.
Who's Korey?
Korey said, I'm coming for that one.
Don't be joking. So, you know, we're very pleased and proud that Korey's still with us.
Yes.
Korey's still with us, stronger than ever. And in fact, he's like a role model for so many of us, young and old, because he persevered under the most difficult circumstances and being one of the most vulnerable amongst us. And he stood strong, sincere, honest, trustworthy, and prevailed in such a way that so many of us would have crumbled. You know, in 5 minutes of the kind of pressure that he and the others were put under for an injustice that they had nothing to do with it. And ironically, the culprit, so to speak, the person who ultimately was accountable, confessed. His name was Matias Reyes, because he's understood that what was going down was not because of them, and it was not right. And in fact, that's a big deal. At a time when the city especially was in a sense of hysteria about that case, calling for the return of the death penalty. Can you imagine being enlightened and ending the death penalty and then turning around and wanting it back? And so Korey was very, very valuable to us in terms of his integrity and his bravery. And so we want to make sure that that kind of behavior, that kind of leadership is honored in this proclamation. Please give him a standing ovation. Please give him a standing ovation. Hold your breath.
Harlem, thank you for coming out this evening. All the world, enjoy the show.
Let me tell you something. When we was in Cali, he did the same thing. But we didn't see part 4 yet. We had only seen part 1, and we was like, oh my goodness, what was we watching? And we saw part 2, it was like, ugh. Korey was just like the yoga. He was just sitting back like, yeah. So Ava was like, you want to see part 3? We was like, yeah. Saw part 3, I was like, wow. And then we all took a break. And Ava was like, make sure you get your snacks. Nobody need a room. I need y'all to watch part 4, because see, part 4 drives it home. Part 4 is the totality of why we don't need to put innocent people in prison for crimes that they have not committed. Just because of the color of their skin, we're already seen as other. And Korey just sat back and was like, part 4, y'all. So I'm gonna just leave it like that. Because we watching it tonight?
We watching it tonight. We got to start.
Yeah.
Let's take one big photo with you two guys.
Just make one other observation that I think is very, very important.
Go on one side.
And I try to make note of it any time I get a chance. You know, During the course of that tragedy, that injustice that was taking place, the cry was, bring back the death penalty. Bring back the death penalty.
You got that. You got it in your office.
Yes, indeed. But I'm saying this because there was so much anger about bringing back the death penalty, so much support for a return of the death penalty.
Racist white boy in the White House.
Yes, indeed. Would you say that again, brother? I didn't hear you.
White boy in the White House.
Did anybody else hear? Could you say it one more
I
time?
second that.
There you go.
I second it.
There you go. And that was very, very revealing because he was, you know, like the major leader in the city, in the state, in the country. And he was the major racial terrorist around this case because they was not simply talking about the Central Park 5. He was talking about the Central Park 5 in general, in all of us, in other words. All of us were the Central Park 5. Thanks to him, it helped us understand the wickedness of what kind of leadership prevailed at that time. It was a very wicked time when it came to justice, and we're happy that we're past that for the moment, at least in terms of the Central Park 5. Right. And it tells us if we can do it then, we can do it again.
Yes.
And we have to keep that message, keep that lesson in our minds and in our hearts so that we can cripple any other opportunity that leads in that direction. Because very often it targets us. Thank you so much.